I guess the point of what I'm trying to say is like I tried my best to not, have a effed up view of what I'm seeing, and if something actually happened that I thought was important, I wasn't gonna, not publish it for the sake of trying to hide it. And they dragged him out, and they were telling, kill him with his own gun, and he's screaming, I have a family, I have kids. I've never seen a police officer, look more scared and vulnerable than that day. That shot is, man, probably, I would say out of all the shots from that day, that's one of the iconic shots of January 6th. Took this boat as kind of like a ferry. This was during F1 race.
Hell
weekend,
yeah.
And I just remember it was my first time meeting Kevin. Man, that trip kind of changed the trajectory of a lot of things in my life.
So I was stalking your Instagram like I do for all my future guests, and I saw you recently photographed André 3000.
Yes, I did.
He obviously legendary member of Outkast. He's got the new solo album out.
Mm-hmm.
What is it like being around a guy like that who is such an icon?
It was
like, does he have a huge energy? Is he more chill than expected? What was that?
It was pretty much as expected, to be honest. Like I wasn't nervous. I don't really get nervous around any musicians anymore, but
you did?
Not really, but I had a goal in mind before I got there because I wanted to take portraits of him. So luckily, I know his tour manager, Syl, and Syl introduced me to André while André was eating his dinner. It was his pre-show. So he said, "What's up?" And then asked if I could take portraits, and he said, "Sure, no problem." So then I waited for him in like the next room, but people are coming in and out. You can see him, and I'm just in my head. I'm like, "Fuck, that's André 3000." Like
yeah.
I never saw him before in my life. I've never been around him. Nothing. I love his music and love the Outkast. So I think like the most André 3000 moment of that evening, besides him playing the flute, which is bizarre to a lot of people, but not bizarre to the people that were actually there to see him, was that he goes, "Yeah, I think I'm gonna just lay down for a minute." And in my head, I'm like, "Lay down where?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna lay down on the floor and just take a nap." And it's like they're like, "You want us to find you any like a blanket?" And he's like, "No,
yeah,
just relax right here for a little while." And he just closed the door and went like chilled for like 10 minutes. It got up, tapped me on the shoulder. It was like, "I'm ready to take those portraits whenever you are." I was like,
was he laying down in front of other people, like, or did he go into a room to take a nap?
There was this door, and I'm right next to the door, and he was just right there. So people were coming in and out, chatting and stuff, and he was just laying on the floor. Wow. It's kind of like, I don't know if he was meditating or was he, I don't think he could go to, sleep in that situation, but he was just laying there. Like I could see him laying, just chilling.
Do you think he did that before he got rich? Like I feel like I wouldn't have the confidence unless I was just some mega symbol like André 3000 to be like, yeah, you guys are, having a cocktail party over here. I'm just gonna lay up like a vampire for a few minutes, but you guys, treat yourselves like you're at home.
I don't know if it has anything to do with you being rich, but I think it has a lot to do with is being self-aware. And knowing what you want from the situation that's present. So, he's in control of all aspects of the backstage. Like if he really wanted to like take a nap or take a rest, he could have told everybody to get out. Don't bother me. I need this 10 to 15 minutes to decompress to whatever, watch a YouTube clip, watch your podcast, whatever that he wanted to do. He could have told everybody to beat it.
Yeah.
But instead, he chose to, be present with the space and with the room where we were in and just deal with, what's, revolving and evolving around him. So, I don't think it has anything to do with money. I think it just has self-awareness and growth. Maybe he wasn't like when he was younger,
Yeah.
coming up, maybe album one, maybe he wouldn't have done that. Maybe his brain and where he was at wasn't like, okay, let me do that. Maybe it was more into like, ooh, where's the girls? Where's this? Where's that? Having a
Yeah.
lot of people around doing different things. But now, he's on a whole different wavelength of.
Yeah. No, that does make sense. Like that it's more of a self-awareness thing than a money thing. Because if I'm thinking back into my own life, there are 100%. I could pick out 3 or 4 different moments just off the top of my head right now that I've wanted to take a nap, and
Mm,
I'm tired as fuck, and I
mm-hmm.
cannot wait to go back to my apartment just so I could sleep on the couch. But then I stick around for another 2, 3 hours when I could have easily just said to someone, "Do you mind if I
Yeah,
just lie down in your
yeah,
room for 20 minutes?" And it would have been, they probably would have been like, yeah, go
yeah,
ahead. But in my
exactly.
mind, I'm like, that's such a weird thing to
But
ask for someone to do.
we're all weird.
Yeah.
But when are you going to start doing things for you
Yeah.
instead of worrying about what someone else thinks about you? That you asking for space to go lay down for 20 minutes, whatever, could have inspired the person you're asking, because they could be thinking the same thing. Oh, that's so weird. But then everyone else, it could be 2 years, it could be 5 years later. And you'd be like, remember Zach, he asked to lay down? I do that now.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, fuck it. I'm going to do what I want to do because it feels good for me and it's not bothering anyone. I don't
Yeah.
care if other people think that that's weird, but guess what? I feel refreshed and now I can continue on with my night feeling great.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you're in a room with a group of people and one person starts talking about going out, but everyone else is chill and
Right.
content. And all it takes is one person to go like, nah, I'm good staying right
Right.
here. And everyone else is like a domino effect. Is like, yeah, me too, me too.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just and then they're like, all right, we're staying here.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it could start a chain reaction.
Exactly.
So when you're doing portraits, whether it's Andre 3000, whether it's another person or a music artist, is there an intimacy that you feel beyond uh, just like if you were to have a normal conversation with Andre 3000, like once you start focusing on someone's face and you're looking at them
Mm-hmm.
and you have to stare at them to get it right, I imagine there's a lot of time where you're
Yeah.
just sort of lining things up and looking at all the different aspects of the frame and but you're staring at a human being, like looking into the depths of their soul. Do you feel like insecure at all in those moments? Is there an intimacy where you're ever like, whoa,
Mm.
like this is fucking intense right now?
Mm. Now insecure, no. Beginning taking photos of celebrities, yeah, sure, absolutely. But now, no, I'm in total control of the situation. Or if I don't feel like I'm in total control, I'm gonna pretend like I am, because when you're doing the job that I do as a photographer, taking photos of just about anyone, it doesn't matter celebrity or not, you have to display a sense of confidence, because I want to let the subject know that you are going to get the best possible images from me in this situation if you do what I'm asking you to do. And if
Mm,
I say, can you please turn to your right a little bit, or turn to your left, or look up, look down, I don't want them to think like, what? This
yeah.
is weird. Going back to where I want them to go, oh, okay, yeah, this is dope, because I'm looking at the person behind the camera, think like, man, he has confidence, he knows what he's doing. So when photographing Andre 3000, I probably, there wasn't a time limit, but he had a show, that was going to start in 30 minutes, whatever. So I thought that, had maybe less than 5 minutes was adequate for me. So basically that's what it was. I probably took maybe 30 frames
Hmm.
of him standing, doing this, turning, with his flute, doing this, doing that. And he's such a natural and professional. Like, he was giving me poses. So there wasn't so much direction to give him. Now, if I would have had more time, we were in a church in Brooklyn and I would have
Mm,
loved to take him around. There's all this beautiful stained glass windows and stuff that would have been made like amazing, photography. But
mm.
you get what you can get when you have someone
Yeah,
like
you got to
him.
work with what you have.
Exactly.
Yeah, he seems like the perfect person to be in the moment with too, and someone like you said that was doing his own thing and
Mm-hmm.
sort of ad-libbing for the portrait, because he's such a prolific, talented music and hip hop icon,
Absolutely.
and he just put out a flute instrumental album.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he does not give a fuck. Like,
No.
if he finds something that he likes, he's just like, all right, I'm gonna chill here for a minute. I'm gonna play this for what it has until I get bored from it, and then people can listen to it. But like right now, this is fun as
Yeah.
shit to
Yeah.
me. So it feels like you can't get to that level unless you have that sort of swagger and that self-awareness, like
Yeah.
you said.
You got that self-aware, and the thing about it is like he's probably gonna win, awards, Grammy off this album. It's not for everyone, and what's crazy is that you can have this confidence and awareness, and know that you'll piss people off. You'll piss off your fans by making something alienating 90 whatever 5 probably 99% of your fan base, but you gain all of these people that you didn't really know that you were affecting in a way, because you go to his shows and he's like, you guys can meditate, you can do whatever, you can hoot, you can holler, there's no bars, but this is what we're doing, and it's gonna feel great. It feels great for me, and I hope that it feels great for you. And I think that's, if I had to decipher, his messaging, that's what I took from that experience of seeing him perform with the flute, and it was magical. It was dope. And I don't like the whole album, but there's one song. The names are so crazy, but I think it's
Dude, there was
the
one.
second or third track that I find amazing. That's super dope.
Yeah, there was one. There are a couple that are super long. The
Hmm.
actual name of the track, it
Right.
was like if pussy, or the word for pussy rolls off the tongue more smoothly than
Yeah.
the proper word, which is vagina. And I'm listening to it on Spotify, waiting for the entire title to roll through, and I'm like, there's more. Like, how much
Right.
more?
Right.
Uh, but yeah, he definitely seems willing to alienate his audience if that is a cost that comes with pursuing what your true purpose is and pursuing what you love to do.
Alienate and anger. There are
Yeah.
people legit pissed that
Yeah, they've been
he's
waiting
not
for a
rapping.
decade. Then
Like,
they're like, this
bro,
is,
who cares? Like, he doesn't want to rap anymore. He rapped enough. Go
yeah,
back and listen to the stuff that he's already rapped on. It's like
yeah,
a great movie. All the stuff is there. The proof is in the pudding. Like,
yeah,
but if you want to hear him now at where he's at right now, you have to listen to him play flutes.
yeah. Did you ever listen to Patrice O'Neill on Opie and Anthony back in the day?
No.
So Patrice O'Neill,
Yes.
so I'm paraphrasing, but he says something as a comic. He says that true comedy is m- making half of the audience think something's hilarious and
Mm.
then mortifying the other half of the audience.
Mm. Mm.
And that if something's truly funny to you, a lot of times there is that tension there. And
Mm.
to him, that was like I don't
Yeah.
want
That's great.
everyone, I don't want like all the laughter throughout the room. I don't want to boo. I want to see people that are like, oh my God, like that's fucking
Right.
disgusting.
Right.
Why would
Right.
you say that? Like, where
Right.
this is our Saturday night out, and other people are just losing their shit in their
Right.
seat, going like, oh my. So yeah, I guess that's kind of like a similar thing where you're just like, yeah, some people, when you put shit out, will be completely angry, and some people will love it, and then to
Yeah.
you it's just like, I'm just making shit
It it
that's cool.
it happens. People are mad right now at Schoolboy Q for his new album Blue Lips, which I love. It's like he made an album for me. I'm like, this is great, and it's my favorite album of his. But his core fans are like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, we
Yeah,
waited 5 years for this, and it's not all of his fans, but it's like, bro, this is the album that he's gonna. I'm pretty sure he's been nominated before, but he might win hip hop album of the year for this record.
yeah,
It's that good. It's well produced. It's mixed amazingly. Like it's he raps super dope on it. Like, but people want to hear this certain sound all the time, and they don't expect artists to grow and be bored with, doing the same thing over and over again. Like, who wants to make the same album
Yeah.
over and over and do the same thing, make the same art? Or you have to evolve, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah. I think it's getting tougher and tougher to do that, especially if you're not already established, because the algorithm wants you to just hammer the shit on your
Mm-hmm.
channel that people are into.
Mm.
And then there's a punishment. Let's say if you put out 30 30 songs that are considered rap or hip hop, and then you put out one song that's jazz,
Mm-hmm.
the algorithm will not promote that song, even if it's as good or better than the
Mm.
hip hop songs, because it's just like, what the fuck is this? We can't, the algorithm can't sink its claws into this thing that's unrecognizable
Mm.
that
Mm.
you've made. Or even like, I'll notice when I'm listening to some of my favorite podcasts where I'm just like, this conversation's fucking sick, but then I go back on their channel and it's a little bit out of the norm, and so it'll have like a quarter of the views of it,
Yeah.
but it's just as dope. So I hope that there's some sort of shift in the future where it's not like just this all-seeing algorithm that's determining what people find and what people don't, but that there's some sort of semblance of the analog of walking into a store and going through CDs
Mm.
and
Mm-hmm.
looking at albums and being like, oh, this looks dope. There's nothing telling me that this is dope other than
Right.
me just seeing it. I hope there's some sort of thing like digitally that's gonna come into that space, because it seems like people are craving. Like, I hear people all the time be like, the last, I don't remember the last time I sort of found a song on my own that wasn't promoted to me
Mm.
by
Mm.
this is the rap that's curated for you. This is the
Right.
EDM that's curated for you. So hopefully there's something more analog in the future.
Good luck. That's what I
We'll
think.
see. It might be a
Who
pipe dream.
knows?
So you grew up in Syracuse, New York,
Yes.
which, as a white kid from Long Island, I
Mm-hmm.
associate with great basketball,
Mm.
heavy snowfall,
Mm-hmm.
and heavier crime. So
Mm.
what was it like growing up in Syracuse, New York?
It was good and bad at the same time. I felt like growing up, I always had a healthy mix of both. It's beautiful, but also it's, like, desolate and ugly at the same time. Like, um, growing up in the '80s, it was crack was just starting to, pop off. Not just in Syracuse, but you know, up and down the East Coast and the rest of America.
So
Um,
it was going up. Crack was in upstate New York, emanating
oh
from New
yeah,
York City.
yeah,
Because
for
like when
sure.
you think of when I think of upstate today, I think of more the opioid crisis, and then when I
Mm-hmm.
think of crack, I think of New York, Chicago,
No,
L.A. But it was going up
it's
there.
just small city, so
Yeah,
there's no stories being told. There's no movies,
yeah,
to tell the history of that
true,
stuff. But
true.
definitely, I mean, mostly all of my friends. I have family members that have been addicted to crack and stuff. I have family members that have sold crack, and all my friends. So it was all around me at that time. And there was, that's the bad. Growing up and having guns pointed in your face and being around gunshots, being around violence and fighting and all that stuff. But there was the good as well. I played football growing up. My family core, my family is amazing. My mom, my dad, my grandmother. So there was always a healthy balance for me to know that this is bad and this is good, but you can stay here and be whatever. We'll support you. We want the best for you, but at the same time, if this isn't good enough for you, please go do something else with your life, because the choice, we're giving you is like, we can have this, or if you want to stay here and keep fucking up, you could be dead or in jail,
Mm.
like a lot of your, contemporaries, which a lot of my friends, like I said, a lot of my friends and family, they all did time. My brother, you know, you name it, you know. So luckily for me, I got up out of there and saw something bigger for myself.
Is there did you think, because I know sometimes when you grow up, you tend to think that the rest of the world is exactly like the place that you grew
Mm,
up, and then
mm-hmm,
when you move somewhere or you travel, you slowly learn that no, that's just the town that you grew up in, and some sort of like other towns are similar,
mm-hmm.
other areas are similar. Did you? At what age did you realize that the there were other places that were unlike Syracuse? Like it wasn't just like a
Mm.
total shit show.
Um, that's a great question
Because
because
I'm just interested because I on Long Island, like I grew up in a
mm-hmm,
75% Jewish, 25% Asian town, like
mm,
extremely safe.
okay.
Uh,
What's the name of it?
Plainview,
Okay, never heard of it.
people call it a plain Jew.
Suffolk County or
Right on the border
right?
of Nassau and Suffolk, it's
Okay.
pretty much right smack in the middle. And so I was kind of I had like the opposite realization where when
Mm-hmm,
I got older and I started traveling to other places, even just going into the city when I was a teenager,
mm-hmm,
you realize that you can't just walk around zoned out all the time listening to
mm,
AirPods. Like you probably shouldn't do that in some
mm-hmm.
places. So like did you have the opposite sort of reaction to that?
Um, I think that that's a great question because I always knew that people lived a different life from what I lived and from what my family members lived. But, you know, people like staying in their bubbles. And even if you go to another city, you're going to find a similar bubble to stay in, to feel safe in.
Yeah.
And that's what my family did a lot of the times. Like we would go places. I have family in Philadelphia. So we would go, you know, hang out with my family, but we would only do stuff in certain neighborhoods. We wouldn't go explore the rest of Philadelphia. So
Yeah.
I didn't get to experience, you know, what Philadelphia was really like until I got older. Same thing with Baltimore and Maryland. And any place that we went to, we found DC, you know, where our people are.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that, you know, and I love it. But at the same time, I always thought about, well, what's the other side of DC look like? What about, you know, Philly? Where do, you know, all these other people live and the stuff that I see on TV? Where is that?
Yeah.
So it took me until probably college, you know. Actually, when I'm a high school dropout, but I was supposed to be in the 11th grade, and it was actually in within my own city in
Mm.
Syracuse that I figured out, like, oh, there's this whole other side of life
Yeah.
that I was totally ignoring, which was these white kids. And I started hanging out with Justin and JC Cameron. I don't know what the hell they're doing these days, but I always credit them to opening my eyes.
Mm.
And you know, they were the, you know, they played football. That's how I know them. But they would watch Friends and they would
Yeah.
watch Seinfeld. All the stuff that I, as a black
Yeah.
kid growing up, we didn't really watch that stuff. We were, you know, Martin and Fresh Prince and stuff. But they
Yeah.
were like, "Yo, we got to watch Friends before we go out." I'm like, "Really?
Yeah.
We're watching
They're
this?"
trying to teach you about the whites.
Yeah, like what is this? But we go out and then they're like, yo, we're gonna go to a party. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get my
Yeah.
dance on, get my rub on. No, it was a party in an apartment and there's people sitting around drinking beers and the music is kind of low and there's smoking weed out of, you know, little pipes and bongs and stuff. So my experience in life was like, yo, this goes on in this city too. What?
Yeah.
This is crazy. We're gonna go have a keg party in the woods somewhere. I was like, really?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What the hell? So,
Yeah. Yeah. So before that, it was just all like you were being exposed to the crack game and
it was, yeah,
more crime
it
and
was
stuff like
that
that.
stuff, but also, you know, I wouldn't, like I said, it wasn't just that. That stuff it was there. It's always going to be there. But
It
it's
was in
like
the
if you wanted to
background.
do
Yeah.
something different, like, you know, where my grandmother lived, it wasn't about that. You know, both grandparents. So, um, you know, or I didn't have to do those things at all. You know, but where I lived at, that stuff was absolutely there. You walk down the street and you would see it.
Yeah.
You know, so It wasn't. It was a way to avoid it, but it's around you.
That's hilarious. I'm just trying to imagine myself in high school and college because we would do a bunch of keg parties all the time at the baseball house, and we're going hard, getting fucked up, blacking out, and I couldn't imagine someone walking into the party that's like that would be hilarious. Like someone walks in and is like, "This is how the other side lives," and I'm just like, "You mean the shit that we do every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday?" Right. And he's just like, "Yeah, I'm just like, "Yeah, welcome to this universe where you can do a keg stand, smoke weed, and hang out."
But that is still happening today. Like this segregation is live and still happening. And I tell kids this every day. And actually on Thursday, I'm going to speak at a school in Newark. And I tell kids and people, adults, step outside of your box, learn from the person that you think that is corny, or I would never talk to this nerdy looking person. Or, oh no, they're too goth or whatever. Who cares? Go talk to these people, or you're going to sit on your phone all day and look at them and like, man, they're actually kind of cool if you start talking to them. And then what do you know? That nerdy kid that you talk to grows up to be the next $1 billion so-and-so for whatever tech company that he started. And you're going to wish that you became friends with him and became a part of his circumference because, you're sitting at home hating on your phone because you ain't doing shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All you had to do is go say hi to this guy, and you don't know your life could have took a different direction.
Yeah. Because the other groups of people, like everyone has secrets, and they're cool ass secrets. And I hung around a group of kids when I was in middle school that, for whatever reason, were just all about classic rock. Like 12-year-olds walking around listening to Lynyrd Skynyrd, Creedence Clearwater. And I got into that music because the only people I hung out with thought that was cool. So I would actually delete songs on my iPod that were in classic rock because I'm like, I want Marshall to think I'm cool. He's the class. He's like the leader. He's class. And then I started playing sports, and I met a bunch of different people from different backgrounds. And then people are blasting DMX on the bus to games. I'm hearing Eminem for the first time. I'm hearing like Yellow Card, Blink-182. Okay. That's like all this different shit. Just people controlling the speaker on the bus, and not just music too, just like attitudes. Right. The way that people curse. Like I wasn't really a good cursor, and then all of a sudden you're playing with like 13-year-olds that are dropping fucking F-bombs and cunts, and like I see someone packing a lip, and I'm like, what the fuck is that? Like this is drugs. We're 13. This is crazy. This isn't classic. But that if I didn't have I guess sports was a catalyst for all of that through like baseball, basketball, like kind of learning the secrets, things that like are secrets to you, but other people, they're just doing shit every day. Like
yeah. You gotta be exposed to it because, like I said, for me, I played football until the 10th grade, and I would say from I guess probably like maybe like from 6 years old until the 10th grade, whatever ages that those time periods are, but I would say every team that I played on was probably 95% black, even up to high school. High school started to be diverse a little bit, but still, it was black kids. I didn't know how white kids, played football. I thought they were weak. We would go and whip their asses. We go to suburbs. It's like, this shit. What is this? But then you start to, you get older. You're like, oh man, these white kids are actually pretty damn good at this, and this is a whole different world, a whole different culture. Like, what? I need to be exposed to this even more because my world isn't just enough for me. And once you start like looking at it like that, it's like, okay, diversity, real diversity, and not just, this shit, this segregation stuff, which I really don't, I don't like it. I like us to, really be intertwined with each other. And, that's, when I think about, Martin Luther King's "I Had a Dream" speech, for me, that's what he was saying. Like, we should really all get along and be able to do stuff together and not be afraid of
Yeah.
it as well. Because I was afraid, like, I'm not doing no white boy shit.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this. What do you mean? I'm going to be labeled as corny.
Yeah.
I can't do this. But literally, it's like you have to open yourself up and know, like, okay, this white boy shit is actually kind of cool. This snowboarding shit, all right.
Yeah.
Playing golf is,
Yeah.
like, all right, skiing.
Yeah.
We could do that, and we could be great at it
Yeah.
too. Why not?
Now I'm just imagining Martin Luther King at a keg party going like, I have a dream that
Man,
one day
yeah, shit.
all black guys will know what it's like to take a keg stand
Right,
and not be
a keg
insecure
stand.
about it.
Maybe, but at the same, but he had his own type of parties where he's probably saying that, kicking back, having a classy glass of scotch or something, chilling. I don't even know if he drank or not, but chilling and was talking about those same things of the time of like, man, like, I wonder if he thought like what it was like, what it would be like to go in some bar. He had to, they always think like go into that bar that they can't go into.
Yeah.
And now you have it where we can, and I mean black folks, where we can go into, white spaces, but still there are people that do not feel comfortable enough to go into places that are labeled as predominantly white spaces, like your typical dive bar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I've had people from Syracuse come down to New York and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to one of my favorite dive bars, Lucky 7. We're going to go to Lucky 7. It's in Jersey City, and this is where I watch my football. And a person comes in and they're like, take a look around and like, fuck, like this is, like they don't feel comfortable because it's mostly white people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah, this is my home away from home. This is it's all good in here. Like chill, relax. Like this isn't the Klan rally in here. Like chill out. And but that's a person that, hasn't been exposed to what, the world can be like and what it is outside of, their box, because they only do what they do.
Yeah. No, there is like, I feel like at the beginning, if you're walking into a situation where it's like a black guy walking into an all white bar or a white guy walking into an all black bar, like I am a huge fan of stand up comedy. I want to go to every comedy club in the city before I move away from here.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I went to my first couple all black shows, like all black lineups, crowd was like 98% black.
Mm-hmm.
You walk in and there's a moment of people are like,
fuck you doing?
But but and then you're like, all right, like I'm by myself most of the time, so I'm just like going around chilling, trying to start a conversation if someone will have me, and then people start drinking and you're hanging out and the show starts and everyone is just laughing and it kind of becomes like this one fucking like organism of the audience.
Right.
And you're not really thinking about that. But I feel like there's a it's almost like an awkwardness toll that you have to be willing to pay, but it only lasts for like 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not willing to just sit in like that 5 minutes of awkwardness while people are staring at you, but they're not out of like a mean way. They're just like, you don't look like everyone else here. Like obviously you stand out. Then, hopefully it comes together.
Goes back to the,
but that's in 2023 or 2024. Sorry not to cut you off. Back in back in the day, like you couldn't count on a black guy walking into an all white bar and be like, oh, it's only going to be 5 minutes of awkwardness. And then of course they're going to accept me like family. Yeah. Like you can't do that.
Depending on where you are, what time, what year.
Exactly.
But I was going to say, it goes back to when you said, thinking about you wanting to go take that nap. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be that awkward moment of you asking, to do it. Like, yeah, if I go to some place in middle bumfuck Alabama and it's some white honky tonk bar or whatever, and black people really don't go, and I'm like, fuck it, I want to go. Yeah, people might be like, what the hell is this guy doing here? And in their heads, they might not say it, but you can feel it, you can see it. But right. Hopefully, knock on wood, you start talking to some folks and, it could be like you're in a movie and the record just You're like,
Exactly.
you're like, what? But then it starts playing
Yeah.
again, and it's just back to normal, and no one's like, all right, you got to go. You're chatting it up with the whatever guys at the bar, and it's all good, and you're learning, and you're taking that experience, you're absorbing, and that's the way that I like to look at life and how I incorporate those things within my work, because it's very important to you know, document, myself. When I mean myself, Black people, and amplify what my own people are doing. But also, I want to learn about, the lives of others
Mm,
and what other people think and do and what makes them tick. And that's a part of why I love to travel and see the world.
yeah. So what drew you initially to photography?
Music, music has been the core for me. My father owned a record shop for a very long time, in Syracuse, New York, and I thought that I was gonna take over his record shop. That was, my thing, my
Yeah.
plan in my head. Didn't happen. And but I always loved music, hip hop being, the most important thing for me, and wanted to somehow be around it. I can't rap, I can't sing, I can't break dance. I'm not great at graffiti. Not saying I'm not great means I suck at it. I never even really tried to do it. All the elements of hip hop I'm not good at, but what I am great at is what I found out is documenting it and being
Mm,
around it and being and absorbing the culture and knowing what's great and what's not great. So I took a couple photos at a show at SOB's in the city in Manhattan, and it was of Common and Erica Badu, and I got inspired from that night, from taking photos on a disposable camera. And next thing you know, I buy a digital camera, and I just was nonstop seeking out music and artists and concerts and um, whatever I can, be around in. That was the inspiration to be, not just a person that was out and about, because I love going out, but I also wanted to
yeah.
make sure that I had a purpose, and my purpose was to document.
So it was Common and Erica Badu in New
Hmm.
York City.
Yeah.
Are there any moments from that night, from that concert, that now being what is it, like over a decade and a half
Oh,
removed from that?
many. That was in
Many decades.
2002.
So yeah, over decades removed. Is there anything from that show that just sticks out for whatever reason, at being the first,
Mm.
your first foray
Hmm.
into photography, even if it was with the
Oh,
disposable?
absolutely. I mean, the reason I was there is because I was super fan of the album Electric
Mm,
Circus. It's one of the greatest hip hop albums, that I is my favorite hip hop album. A lot of people hate it, but to each his own.
that just means it's good.
Yeah, that's the way I feel about it.
Yeah,
So what stood out is that the fact that I went there, to go as a fan. I had a sign that had one of the names of the songs on it. Electric Wire Hustle Flowers, one of the name of the songs, and I had a sign, and I'm in the front row, and I was being a fanboy. And one of the moments that stuck out, like he saw the sign and took the sign from me and was going crazy on stage with the sign. And I have photos of him with my sign. And also, what stood out for me is that, all the people that I loved at that time from the neo soul era of hip hop were there.
yeah,
Bilal, Erica Badu, Questlove, all of these people, there, I wanted to be like them.
mm,
I thought that I belonged in this ecosystem of neo soul.
yeah,
I thought I wanted to burn Nang Chapa incense, and drink herbal tea
mm,
and hang out with them at
yeah,
in the studio and build. But how am I going to do this? Like, why would I be included in this, foray of greatness? So
yeah.
I had to, I guess it is subconsciously figure out how to, get there. And that's where photography came in. where now I can be in these spaces, in these rooms, and get to know these people.
Yeah, it's like I mean, literally in a lot of places, an all access pass to be up close and
Mm-hmm.
personal and be in that moment. Be like I every concert I go to, I'm always jealous of the guys in the photo pit that are like inches
It's
away
the best seat
when
in
the
the house.
rapper's leaning down into
Yeah.
the camera and like they're probably fucking like sweating on the
Mm-hmm.
lens and like you can smell what Jay-Z smelled like. You're like, oh, I know that
Best
cologne.
best seat in the house.
That's like that's fucking awesome.
It never gets old.
And it all started with a disposable.
Yeah, disposable camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you feel inspired in around that time when you started taking it with a disposable? Did you feel inspired by any of those iconic Complex or Rolling Stone covers from when you were
Mm.
growing up? Because if I'm thinking about my introduction to music photography,
Mm-hmm.
I think the first one that really stuck in my psyche was the Passion of the Christ Kanye West Rolling Stone
Mm.
cover. I
Mm-hmm.
think that was like 2003. Maybe I was 10
Mm-hmm.
or something like that, and I was in some doctor's office probably and
Mm.
saw Rolling Stone Kanye West wearing the crown of thorns.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason that was just like, oh, that stuck in my head as just something cool
Mm.
that
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't necessarily like, oh, I want to learn more about photography, but I was like, oh, if I want to see my artists that I like depicted in a cool way, I go check out
Right.
Rolling Stone. I go check out Complex.
Right.
Did you
Right.
have any
Right.
covers that sort of did
Yeah,
that for
that
you?
not covers, not any specific covers, but I think it's a collective of images for me, and images by people that I didn't necessarily knew existed at the time. Like I wasn't into photography before I got into photography. I was just a fan of music, and I really didn't think like, oh man, who's this photographer that took, this image of DMX in a bath, with blood, you know,
Yeah.
over all over him. I wasn't seeking that out. Like I wasn't seeking out, who took this amazing photo of, Run DMC with the Eiffel Tower in the back.
Mm.
But I knew these images in my head, and as I became, further along in my career of photography, I wanted to get to know some of these different photographers, and you cross paths with different photographers, and you get to know a Jonathan Mannion, you get to know a Ricky Powell. So looking at Complex and Rolling Stone and even Rap Pages and Source Magazine, like all of those things inspired me subconsciously to create images, because
Mm.
the way I knew that the images that I took on this disposable camera was looking at those magazines and saying, I think my images are just as good
Yeah.
as some of these images in these magazines. Now,
Yeah.
how do I get them to be seen? That's a whole nother thing.
Mm.
I had to figure that part out. So it started with, okay, well, I can put them on MySpace. Okay, there's this, a Flickr came out at the time. And then, okay, now how do I direct people to my Flickr? Oh, I can go on, okplayer.com, and they have the boards, and I could tell people to find my photos through that way. And then next thing you know, it's like, wait, I should start a blog. So I started villageslum.com, and then that became popular where people would go to the blog and see the work. And then next thing you know, musicians and people like Questlove are seeing your work, and then
Yeah.
they're inviting you to things. And now somehow you become, the house photographer for the Roots, because you're
Yeah.
at their shows because you just never stopped going. And it was almost like by default. Nobody else wanted the job. I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah. The
So
opportunity presented itself.
yeah. I don't say nobody else wanted a job. There was plenty of people who wanted a job, but I was the guy that was entrusted to, be amongst, people, and not be on some BS. I think that
Yeah.
was most important.
Yeah. I'm sure you also have to be a likable dude to
That
be a
too.
photographer, because if you're going to be spending so much time with an
Yeah,
artist or with
yeah.
a band, they're not going to pick a photographer who they
No,
don't like hanging around.
you can't be a jerk. You gotta leave your ego at the door. It's not your space when you're with them. You're backstage. It's their space. They're inviting you in. You're not in control of anyone else except for yourself, right?
Yeah.
In all aspects of life. So what can you do to fit in? you don't want to diminish yourself to where you're nothing, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're respecting the space,
Yeah.
and being comfortable. And also, like, you have to be trustworthy at the same time. And as you grow with an artist, okay, cool. Maybe the first time you're meeting artists, you're not just going to go in their dressing room and start eating their food. But as you
Yeah.
start, you get to know people and they become your brothers. Like the Roots those are my brothers. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I'm going in and grabbing a beer and maybe a sandwich. Like,
Yeah.
that's fine. But, I know when catering comes, if I didn't order something, I'm not going to touch the hot chicken food. Like, I know that.
Yeah.
That's overstepping the boundaries.
Yeah.
But a little cold cut sandwich, I'm good on that.
Yeah.
You just know your role and where you fit in.
So let's say you're backstage, because I've always wondered, like, if you have this space to yourself, the artist,
Mm-hmm.
if at the end of the show, if there's drugs going around, if there's girls back there, is it just an unwritten rule that, like, the photographer is gonna put his camera away? Like, you're not gonna try to do like a gotcha moment?
It depends on who you're working with and who you're with.
Okay. Is there like a discussion or anything beforehand with the artist, or is it just like they'll be like, "Why are you taking photos of this?" Or
you just kind of feel it out. Like some artists will tell you no,
Mhm.
or some artists, they expect you to take the photos. And also, if you're working with them, they're, like I said before, there's this trust issue.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not trying to get gotcha with anyone.
Yeah.
I want to be back there and be able to use the photos, or I'm wasting my time.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about these girls that's not doing anything for me, unless that's the image that we're trying to capture and express and put out in the world, then that's fine. But if that, it's meaningless for me.
Yeah.
That's how I looked at it, because I want to be invited back again and again and again, and not on some, oh, you got a girlfriend and ooh, there's some girl with their leg on you. Let me capture this and put this on the blogs.
Yeah.
Who else had a camera? Oh, Mel
Yeah.
did. So how do you don't
Yeah.
want to get that name in the industry.
Yeah. I was just curious, not for you, but for other photographers,
Mhm.
maybe people that are trying to make some extra cash, or because we live in such a clickbait
Mhm.
TMZ culture.
I was gonna say,
And if TMZ
yeah.
is like, well, we'll pay you, $3,000
Mhm.
for you to get, little baby doing a line of ketamine back. So, like,
Mhm.
just like get us something, and you're
What's
just like, all right, I'll see what I can do.
$3,000, you make a quick hit, but then you're out of a job for the rest of
Yeah.
your life. You won't be
Yeah.
invited back. All the artists in certain scenes or whatever, they all know each other. So if you're already saying, using Little Baby as an example, Little Baby knows Little Wayne's people, Little whoever, all the rappers, they all know each other. It's a small community of people, and then you start breaking it down. It's like you might get one job, and then that person might see you like, yo, that
That's
dude,
a Little Baby dude.
that he did. Then you're done.
Yeah.
So then next thing, what's next? You have to go work in the industry where you don't like the music. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's
You're
not
just working your way around different genres before people catch on.
it's not worth it. Like,
Yeah.
I've gotten called by TMZ before, and I'm sitting in the car, and the artist that I'm working with at the time, his mom is in the front seat. We just left this crazy event, and it wasn't even that, a little bit of drama, but nothing crazy. And they're like, I get an email. TMZ wants such and such photos from this and this and that. Can we call you? And I just, right in the front, his mom was like, yo, they just asked me for photos. And she was like, tell them to fuck off. Fuck off.
Yeah.
Nothing. I didn't say fuck up, but it was basically that. Like, it's nothing. Like, if
Yeah.
she would have said, oh, well, give them this, go ahead, make your little extra bread. This is not exposing anything. Then that's a different story. But she's like, nah, like, you're not giving them that.
Yeah.
It's all good.
It's not worth sacrificing the long-term relationship.
Absolutely not.
So there's the rapport between the photographer and the artist.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to photographers and photographers, is there any sort of competition when it comes to the pit or backstage, like, especially in the early days where you're not as well known? What is that like? Like, are you fucking like tripping, like taking out some dude's Achilles to get a shot? Like, what is going on there?
So see, like, the early days,
You're
for
tapping
me,
someone on the shoulder, they're
right,
looking, you're like, I got it.
But
See
see,
it.
the early days for me are a lot different than they are now.
Yeah.
Early days for me, it was just me a lot of times. There
Yeah.
wasn't a gazillion photographers trying to get into whatever, There's me, maybe the house photographer, and maybe someone else. But there weren't a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? And you would go to whatever show, and it was the same. Maybe it'd be 5. Now you go and there's 30, photographers at a festival, 40 sometimes in the pit. So um, that's where I grew up. Within my career of it's like there wasn't many people around, and as the years start to come around, it's like okay, this guy is coming, this woman is coming, this person is here, here. And absolutely, yes, it's I'm super competitive by nature. Um, so, you start looking at this person like, who are you? Like, why are you here? This is my domain.
Yeah.
This is I've been holding this down for the last 3 or 4 years or whatever. Like, how are you just gonna show up and come, and then you kind of sneak a peek and look at the photo like, oh, you're actually good. So
Yeah.
it makes you step your game up. And I just had this discussion. I was at Columbia a couple weeks ago, and I was talking about how like I didn't care about you know like being friends with a lot of photographers. Like I just
Yeah.
had tunnel vision. Like I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to know if this photographer was great or whatever, because like I just said, like I would look and kind of get like this idea of jealousy in my head, or like competitiveness, and it's like a lot of these people are nice people,
Yeah.
whatever. I just didn't care to know them because I wanted to be great. I wanted to be the best, and I thought that that's the way that I needed to be in order to achieve success. And I didn't change the way that I thought until the pandemic, where like a lot of people were sitting at home and not doing anything, and I was like, huh, maybe I can start talking to different photographers on live, Instagram live, and start interviewing some of these
Mm.
people and getting to know them and sharing, my platform with them, and vice versa. So I started reaching out to different photographers. Some I knew and some I didn't knew, some that I looked at from afar like, I don't really mess with you, but now I feel like it's the time to like try this out, and it was successful. I think I talked to about 9 or 10 different
Yeah.
photographers, and learned a lot, and opened myself up to this community of people that I necessarily didn't want to be bothered with at first.
Yeah. It's crazy how thin the line is between jealousy and inspiration. Because you
Yeah.
mentioned seeing someone else's work and feeling jealous, and I feel that same thing
Oh.
when I'm scrolling through clips
Mm-hmm.
and I see someone's clip, and then I see maybe a clip that I've done with the same guest, or just
Mm.
something completely different. I'm like, damn, like I
Yeah.
wish I fucking asked them. Like, why didn't I?
Right.
And then
Right.
and then other times I'll see someone's clip and I'll see someone else's podcast, listen to an episode, and I'll feel inspired.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times it's, I don't know if it's the amount that I'm looking at other people's work, or maybe just the attitude that I'm
Mm-hmm.
in right before I'm doing it. If I'm feeling down, where I'm more like scrolling to fill a hole, then
Right.
I'll be jealous. But if I'm, more in a good mood, then I'll be like, oh yeah, this is super inspiring.
Right.
This is
Right.
I'm just gonna like clock it and see, maybe I could do some sort of version of that and make it
Mm.
my own.
Mm.
But yeah, it's weird, like what turns your brain towards inspiration and towards
Yeah.
jealousy.
I think a lot of times for me that with jealousy comes depression. And with depression, sometimes I have to think like I'm tired of being inspired. Like I'm tired of it. Like I'm
Mm,
over it. And I saw a clip, someone said this and it just resonated with me. He's like, I want to be the person that inspires
mm,
people because I'm tired of being inspiring to others. You know what I mean? Like, I'm tired of people inspiring me. Like, I want to be the person that does the inspiring.
yeah.
So what comes with that, like for me, I like have these ebbs and flows of like, just yesterday I was thinking to myself, it's like, am I depressed right now? Like I'm just in this funk. I just feel like, something isn't right with me. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm I'm just not feeling great about where I am, my position in life, or what I'm doing, or how I can get there, or financially, or whatever it is. Like, I'm not doing as good as I did at this point last year. Like, am I waiting on the email, or should I go chase,
Yeah.
the email? You know what I mean? Like, when is this, really going to feel great for me this year? And I have a lot to be thankful for. I have an amazing son. He's 5.5 years old. I have amazing people around me at the same time. But I put a lot of pressure on myself to be successful and to be great, to the point where, you know, I get jealous of
Mm.
other people's greatness
Yeah.
sometimes, where it's like, fuck, you know, should I be inspired by this?
Yeah.
Yes. Is it okay to be jealous by this? I think so. But why is it making me fucking depressed? And I think because I'm wishing that that was me.
Yeah.
So then how do I get it to the point where it is me?
Yeah.
Where when I'm doing the inspiring
Yeah.
for other people, when I'm being great. So that's where that's what I toy with all the time throughout my life, and just trying to be, I guess, one of the most self-aware, people that I know, because I only can control my own actions and what I do. So
Yeah.
it's tough. It's, the ebbs and flows of, I guess, reality, so
Yeah.
to speak.
So when you're feeling like you're in that space of depression, jealousy, some combination of both, because I
Hmm.
struggle with that too, where I can easily get into a spiral of just not thinking about the quality of some of the work that I've put
Hmm.
out, remembering that whatever people say, I know that these conversations are good, these photos are good, these songs are good, whatever it is.
Right.
And then you just go into a mental death spiral of like, fuck this, like I'm never going to be as good as this guy or
Hmm.
girl. How do you pull yourself out to get back to that place of gratitude, of feeling inspired? Mostly, I don't know. Like, I guess there are points where I felt close to 100% inspiration. I feel like
Hmm.
there's always like that little aspect of competition with
Right.
people that are in your field where it's like,
Yeah, competition is healthy.
it's healthy, yeah, but to get like, how do you get back to that place where it's like you're doing it for the positive, like uplifting
being
side?
being present in the moment and looking around. And this was just yesterday. I felt like this,
Hmm.
and I was in my studio space in Chelsea, and I'm sitting on my computer, and I didn't know what the hell to do. Like, I already pulled photos from this trip from Ghana. I posted them. um they're great. I love them. And then I was like, okay, what am I going to do for the rest of my day? Like, I'm waiting for these emails to come from, some potential amazing projects, right?
Hmm.
I've exhausted, my network of reaching out to people. And I just sat there and I said, self, be present. Be thankful for what you have. Look around you right now. Like,
Yeah.
this is amazing what you have. You have an amazing home, and go home and feel the same way. Go get in your car. When you get in your car, just sit there for a couple seconds and be thankful for what you have, and understand that this is not the way you feel right now, isn't going to last. It's
Mm.
going to change,
Mm.
and it will change. Today I feel great. I don't feel, slightly depressed. I don't feel like, you know, tomorrow is gonna suck. I feel like tomorrow
Yeah.
is gonna be great, and the next day and the next day. But, there might be 2 weeks from, now, where I'm just back in that same boat, where I just have to tell myself, yo, chill out.
Yeah.
Life isn't, there's a lot worse out there, and you're in a great position. There's so many people that you have, that look up to you, that want to be like you, that wish that they've done this and done that, and are going to wish that they can do the things that you can do in the future. And you have this amazing son that thinks, the best of you, that he's your little best friend,
Yeah.
amazing family, all these things to live for. So that's where I get past, these feelings of, where I'm feeling internally depressed, because people wouldn't know, like, outwardly, that I'm feeling these ways. It's not even like I'm hiding them. It's like I'm not at the point where I'm like, oh, you know, I have to leave this place.
Yeah.
I've never been there, but I'm just talking about, like, for me, it's just that part where I'm just like, man, like, I don't have anything to do. I could, do I just want to do nothing and just, accept that today?
Yeah.
That kind of depressed. Do I want to turn off the lights and just lay down and, enjoy the rainy day?
Yeah.
Like, is that where I'm at?
Yeah.
Or should I go be successful? Is there a photo outside that I can try to go capture, of this rainy day to make me feel, like I'm actually doing something. I'm going to go work.
Yeah.
So it's a process, So again, where I talk about, like, just being self-aware, a lot of people don't know when they're depressed. They just think that that's, how they feel, how life is for them, and how life, always is. And I'm lucky enough to recognize certain aspects of when I'm not feeling so good, and I can try to climb myself out of, a funk. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've been lucky with the mental health card that I've been dealt, because the bouts of depression or depressive states that I've had, anxiety, have been pretty few and far between. And I've struggled with anxiety. I mean, I still have anxiety where it kind of ebbs and flows on a daily basis.
Yeah.
But in terms of, like, doing full blown panic attacks where I'm ending up in the emergency room,
Oh,
like,
wow.
I haven't done that since, like, college.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's unfortunate. Like, I've never had a panic attack before, but I definitely know it, feeling anxious, and recognize, that feeling.
That's all. I mean, that's awesome. It basically feels like you think you're gonna die, but there's no present danger, and you can't explain why you feel like you're gonna die. Like, you could be sitting on your couch and it feels like a saber-toothed tiger's in front of you in terms of, like, the amount of danger, and you're, like, telling your brain that nothing's there, and it's gotten to the level where I ended up, just, like, I was also in a crossroads in my life where my baseball career was coming to an end, went through a breakup, smoking a shit ton of weed. That probably had, I was not being conscious of how I was consuming.
Right. Yeah.
And then I, when I was sober, I ended up in the ER. It wasn't like a high panic attack, but it might have had something to do with it before that. And that just caused me to recognize, like, on a daily basis, being more self-aware of when those anxious feelings start.
Right. How do you deal with that? How do you, when they start, what is your way of, I guess, trying to self-heal yourself?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's amazing that you have that self-awareness.
Now I'm asking you.
Oh, how do I do
I'm
it?
doing the interview now.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
How do you deal with that? Like, you get to those, you start to feel that way. You're on your couch, let's say it's in the future. How are you, trying to, self-navigate, feeling better, not getting to the point where you're in, you feel like you're going to die and end up in the ER.
So the last time I really felt like that, I was on a plane, where it's probably a pretty common occurrence. If people are going to feel that way, a plane is
yeah.
Sometimes I'm on a plane and I'm like, I bet you half the people in here are feeling like the way that I'm feeling right now. They're just sitting there silently freaking out in their own heads, like, I'm going to die. So that actually makes me feel better. No, that makes me feel better.
I felt like that once or twice, but I fly so much now that I just get in the plane and I have a little thing. I tap the plane, give it a little rub before I get in, and that's my way of just letting, go of the control, because you have no control over what happens after that point. You can get in. Once those doors close, it's a wrap. You can act the fool and get off. You can act anxious and all that stuff and get off, and it'll let you off. But once you're flying, you're in the hands of someone else. And you have to relinquish, that trust in the pilots and hopefully in the equipment and the technology. And that's for me how I, tell myself that everything is going to be all right.
Yeah.
We're up here. So yeah.
So to answer your question, when I feel like that, when my heart starts feeling like it's going 200 miles an hour, my throat, this is for me personally, my throat feels like it's closing up. I used to try to push that feeling away or try to convince myself that I wasn't feeling that way, and that only made it stronger. So now as soon as I feel like I might be going on a wave of anxiety, I say to myself, I'm going to accept this wherever it brings me. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is I recognize that I'm going to be okay. There's going to be an end to it.
Right.
And if I can do something like going for a walk or working out, editing a podcast, but that's not as active. So more like going for a walk or doing a workout, something to like give me a reason for why my heart is beating fast. Like if you're running and your heart's beating fast, you're not questioning why it feels that way. So
what's supposed to happen?
Exactly. Yeah. Have a conversation, like call a friend, go on a walk, something like that. If I'm on a plane where that's a more difficult thing to do, and as a last resort, if the first two things haven't worked out, I will think, this sounds fucked up, but I'll like actively think about people that are in much worse situations than me. And that makes me feel better.
Yeah.
And like if I think about, I'm freaking out on this, Delta flight that I was just able to pay for, and I have a job and I have a family, and there's people getting blown up in Palestine in a really fucked up, sick, roundabout way. That makes me feel like it could be so much worse.
Absolutely.
And I'm so lucky right now.
I've done those things before to push me through certain situations, right? I've thought about, everything from slavery to a lot of, fucked up situations where it's just to remind myself of, what a lot of people went through so that I could be here today.
Yeah.
And my little bit of complaining about whatever it is, I got to walk 2 blocks from my car.
Yeah.
Like, bruh, do you know, years ago, people would have, think they 2 blocks to your car. We can't even leave this plantation right now. And we want to leave this plantation. You're complaining about that. And I understand that, it's all relative to blah, blah, blah. But, there's certain times I just have to think like, this is not a big deal.
Yeah.
And for you, like getting on the plane, you remind yourself of something horrible and it gets you through it. At the same time, that, that whatever it is, situation is far worse than whatever you're going through, and that gets you through it and it gets you through it.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at it.
It takes my mind off. And then if like I absolutely can't get a grip, I'll have a drink, but I try not to do that. I know some people, they'll have Xanax and medication, Klonopin, as they'll take it before they get on the plane. I was offered that, but for whatever reason, just for me personally, I didn't want to have to rely on that. So my thing is like, I'll get a Jack on the Rocks or something if I'm really like, if this is going to be like a 13-hour flight or something. Like I went to Tokyo last year.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, I'll just have 1 drink, 2 drinks, but I'm not going to be like so fucked up that when I land. Because also when you get drunk when you fly, maybe you felt this. I don't know if you've ever been fucked up on the plane. The hangover is worse when you land.
The altitude.
So the altitude, like with the air. So you're like signing up for more anxiety when you land.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, if I'm gonna have a drink, it's gonna be 1 or 2.
You would totally hate me if you're going through your anxiety and panic attack. Say, for instance, you're in the aisle seat and you look over at me and we haven't taken off yet, and I'm completely knocked out, sleep.
Oh yeah,
you would probably hate me how comfortable I am. Like I've done it before, knocked out, woke up, we have 13-hour flight. I'm waking up 8 hours, like, checking the time. Like, all right, got 3 hours for a movie. Let's, we're doing. Let me go to the bathroom, and like I'm that comfortable.
I wouldn't hate you because now I am like that.
Oh,
a lot of flights.
Okay.
I don't think I'm never going to be a great sleeper on a flight, but now a lot of times when we're taking off, especially later in the day, I'm basically on the verge of passing out trying to watch a movie, and then when we're in the air at some point I'll pass out. So like it's not as bad as it once was around that time. This is when I was in the ER. That was like 2015, 2016. So like just everything around that time. No, yeah, it was it was what it was, and a lot of people, like we said, go through worse shit.
You're navigating your mental health. Depression sucks, but also, how I see it, like I've never been that far, deep into the situation, and knock on wood, hopefully I never have to experience that, because I wouldn't wish that, in anyone. But also at the same time, I feel like, people don't talk about mental health enough, even if they're just in a place like me where it's like, I was depressed, or in a place like where you're at, like, nah, I was in the hospital. They both suck, but it's all relative, to where you are. And I think they're both, in all aspects of it, it's very important to talk about, especially as men. We don't do enough of talking about where we are mentally, and life isn't all about, oh, I'm happy, I'm on this podcast, it's all great. Nah, shit, this morning
that would be such a fucking annoying podcast.
I
got out of bed and there's a glass of orange juice there, and I was
just so great. Today wasn't so great. A lot of people are probably having a shitty day. It's raining outside. It's not fun for them.
So I wanted to show you some of your photos.
You want to show me some of my photos
that I picked out. Some of these are older,
see them.
And I'd be curious just what the first thoughts are when you look at these photos now.
Let's do it.
And let me just take this out. Leave that there.
Dun dun
Zoom
dun.
in on this for you. It's just like a gotcha photo. This is you passed out, Patsy.
It's turning around the iPad pretty soon, so we can explain to you out there in podcast land.
Boom.
And boom. That is a photo of Kanye West and Jay-Z at Madison Square Garden in the theater, and that was taken in,
I think I have the date on there, 2005.
Yeah, I was gonna say 2005.
2005.
Yep.
What are you feeling when you're looking at this photo? Because I could tell you what I'm feeling, but I'll do it after.
I'm feeling, when I look at this photo, I think about myself and where I was and what I was doing and how I got to this point to take this photo. So 3 years into my amateur career, which wasn't really much of a career at this point, I just got my digital camera at maybe a year and a half before this. I didn't have a photo pass. My friend, I believe it was my friend Sean Morrissey, got me a ticket for this show. And I believe this was sponsored by Verizon or something. This is how much details I know about this.
This is crazy. I'm already super impressed.
He was working for an agency, I believe IMG, and they had some kind of Verizon was one of their clients. And he got me a ticket, and I had my camera, and I just walked to the front like I knew what I was doing. And there was only the house photographer there, and I took a lot of photos that day. I learned a lot, because my camera at the time was only like a 3 megapixel, 4 megapixel camera, and I had one memory card, and the memory card was probably like, it didn't even have 1 gigabyte or something like that.
Yeah.
So I took photos and I ran out of space. So then I deleted a bunch of photos and put the settings down to the smallest settings so I could take even more photos. So what you see here is a photo that is small that I can't even really do anything with. I can enlarge and all that stuff, but the actual digital file is so small. It's almost to the point where it's semi useless but very useful at the same time. But yes, it was a happy moment. I got super geeked because Jay-Z came out. It was super special. You could see that Kanye's looking at his big brother. He's super happy. And this is Kanye's first tour, arena tour, at the time.
I'm going to put this one in frame. Getting up the next photo. This one. And there's no rhyme or reason. These just stood out to me when I was going through the photos for music on the website.
This is 2015 South by Southwest. Forget what they called the place. It was a mansion off site at South by Southwest. This is Kendrick Lamar, Schoolboy Q, J Rock performing, and we're in this house, and the freaking floor was going up and down, shaking.
It looks like it.
This might be Kendrick's second time at South by Southwest. This is first album, first major album release, I believe. 2015. I don't know his album dates, but I believe
is that Mad City?
Maybe. I wish I could remember what song was being played. I don't remember that. But I just remember it was super hot and it felt super dangerous. And it was an amazing night capturing them all three together. It was my second time capturing most of TDE together. The first time was maybe like 2012 when J Rock was the guy. And I was focused on J Rock, and I remember outside of this venue, I was like, J Rock, can I get a portrait? And he was like, oh, only if you take photos of me and everybody else. And I was like, everybody else? I don't really want to take a photo of them. But took the photo, and thank you, J Rock, because it was of Kendrick and Schoolboy Q and everybody else in the gang, mixed by Ali and, most of the whole TDE of that time.
Yeah. My thought was, let's see, I just wrote down young, sweaty Kendrick Lamar, basement. What's going on here? I just thought it seemed like a really cool vibe, almost like if my high school friend was a rapper and blew up like Kendrick Lamar. This almost seems like a basement show that he would have done in my town, just starting out with people going hype and crazy. That was the vibe to me.
It was definitely. I mean, it was similar.
Yeah,
we're on the second floor though.
This one, flip that around for you.
Oh yeah, this is 2017, maybe
2000. Yeah, I think I wrote down
2017.
London, 2017.
Yep. London O2 Arena. Drake performing. He just released I forget the name of the album, but it's one that I really, really like. Which a lot of people.
Was it Scorpion?
No, it was. It has a lot of the kind of Afrobeat stuff on there.
Okay, I could look it up and put it in the.
Yeah, I forget the name of it. I like probably like 6 or 7 songs off of that album. But yeah, I was actually. This was taken from my first memory. This was taken from the sound booth at the concert. I was with Trey Songz, his Drake's dad, Sade.
Hell yeah,
was next to me as well, and a couple other people. And it was a magical night because I got to dance with Sade in the back and got to know her, and I never met her before, and I was just so wrapped up in her, her aura, of Sade, and I was able to get a photo with her. And shout out to Drake and Trey Songz because if it wasn't for them, that moment wouldn't have happened. So yeah,
I gambled next to Drake's dad briefly in Vegas because I was there for a Kygo show. We were trying to go to Drake too, but it was just the night before we got there. And I guess his dad was still in the hotel. I forget exactly what the venue is. And then it was just me, my friend, and we were standing next to this guy gambling craps. And then a bunch of other people came over and people were like whispering and they were like, that's blah, blah, blah. And then I asked someone, they're like, oh, that's Drake's dad. I didn't say anything to him, but you just mentioned him. I lost money next to Drake's dad.
Oh, there
we go.
Yeah. Cool dude
yeah.
From my experience with him, his dad.
How do you how do you handle the emotion of the moment versus staying focused with your job as a photographer?
Mm, it's hard to. I mean, it depends. What are we talking about? Music wise,
Like
or
when
just
you're
in
when you,
general?
like when you're trying to take a photo of someone, but the energy of the room is just so palpable and massive that you do you want to move around? Like, do you get overwhelmed at all? Do
Well,
you feel like
yeah.
it's hard to stay still?
You adapt to the
Yeah,
situation. You adapt to the mood of that question could be put into perspective for a lot of different situations within the photography world. Say for instance, if I am it's a photo shoot and we're in a studio, for the most part I'm setting up the atmosphere, and I'm in control of the situation, and the subject is coming into this world,
yeah,
and then I have to, so that's one thing. Then I have to readapt to what their mood is,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So, and then possibly readapt to, different moods and mood changes of the subject and depending who the subject is. If I'm at a concert, and for me, being in the front in the pit, and the reason why I shoot music and be around musicians is because I love the music, right?
mm,
And I want to feel it. I want to, that energy. I love the feeling of it. And sometimes I'm just sitting there and I want to enjoy it as well. So you take it in and you let it hit you and you understand, you be present, that you're in this amazing situation, this amazing environment. There's nothing wrong with, fanboying out
yeah,
for, a while, but also doing your job, because this is the reason why you love doing your job, is because you love, these artists.
yeah,
And if we're talking about, let's say for instance, like photojournalism, or, being out in the streets and taking people's photos out there, again, you adapt to the situation. You don't let, like, in that, those realms of photography, you don't let the situation, I guess, overwhelm you,
yeah,
and you're there to kind of, try to be as much of a fly on the wall as possible. But sometimes you're, if you're that if you're that fly, you're being a pest as well. You got to come and, let someone know that you're there. You hop on their
mm,
shoulder, you tap them. And what I mean by that, you want to take a photo of them looking at you.
yeah.
So you ask, "Can you do this?" Or you show them the camera
Mm.
instead of just sitting there, being discreet.
If you could relive any show that you've shot, which one would you pick?
Hmm. Any show. Um.
Such an easy question.
Yeah, I've shot hundreds of them. Um. I don't know. Uh. Let's see.
If you had a time machine right here, if where we're keeping my brother
Go
locked up in the room, if
right.
you walked into that room and once you walked through that portal, you were in
uh,
a show that you've shot and you could make that any show.
Probably the first one. I guess I would say, going back in a time machine of, you know documenting, Common and all those guys. I wish that I two things. I wish that I had in my brain that I was there to document this show instead of being a fan first. I wish that
Mm,
I balance. I would go back and tell myself to balance it a little bit more, because there was, thinking back on it, there were probably a gazillion shots that I could have gotten, but I didn't have. I wasn't thinking that way,
yeah,
and then, you know I would have done differently with the negatives. Like, I wasn't thinking photography at all. I was like, negatives. Oh, I just want the little print.
yeah,
So I would have kept better care of
mm,
the property.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think though, if you didn't approach it as a fan first at the beginning, that you would have grown as the same photographer today? Like
Mm.
if you didn't have that spark of fandom, you might not have progressed down the same path
Um.
if you approached it seriously right away.
Yeah, it would have been a little different, but my career would be different as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like if I would have, like, yeah, what I mean, like, I would be in a different place right now, I think, financially, creatively, like if I would have said, okay, this is what I need to do. Like if I had, someone, if I had guidance, like, okay,
Mm,
you got to take care of this, you got to do this, you got to store these negatives, you got to, so me, it was just like, oh, get these developed, put them in the shoebox kind of deal, because
mm,
I wasn't thinking about, long term goal. Like it was all like, not necessarily short term, but it was just like, okay, I have this, and this is what you do with photos. You just either put them in a photo album or you put them in a shoebox, and that's
yeah.
it. I wasn't thinking, professionally, which I wish that if
Yeah.
I could go back, just change that aspect of, what I did
Like the
back then.
logistical side, all these tiny
Yeah,
things that you could do to save time, save
absolutely.
money, shit like
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
I want to show you a couple that are more nightlife just to see what you think at this
Okay.
point. And I'm going to throw these up on the YouTube channel, by the way,
Uh
too, so people can see them.
yeah, this is I forget his name, but he owns a skate brand, and I was with my friend Aaron at the time. That's his friend. I forget this guy's name. But skater. But we were out and about, and yeah, that happened. It's pretty gross.
Yeah.
But it comes, I'm not gonna let an opportunity pass me by of taking photos of something that tells the story of what actually happened. So yeah.
Yeah. It's that perfect moment of capturing the
Are
puke
we gonna show these photos
expel.
up so I don't
Yes.
have to
Yeah.
explain to
Yes.
them what
Yes. Yes. They're
exactly
going
is
to be, I'm going
happening?
to flash these up on the
Okay.
YouTube version. Um, I just wrote down guy looks like guy is puking while he's trying to show the peace sign. Where he's like, I'm throwing my guts up, but he's like, oh, it's
Yeah,
good.
he
Like, don't
was
worry about
he was
it.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, after that. That was in my nightlife days. I don't shoot nightlife anymore.
And this is the last one. I was going through your nightlife page too because I
Oh,
just thought it
okay.
was
Yeah,
fascinating.
Kevin Hart in Dubai, or were we in Abu? I think this is Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Uh, year, it had to be 2018 or something like that. 17, 18. Yeah. Look at Ro and look at Kev back there. Both Kevins.
Yeah.
We just took this boat as kind of like a ferry. This was during F1 race
Hell yeah.
weekend, and I just remember it was my first time meeting Kevin. Man, that trip kind of changed the trajectory of a lot of things in my life. Then, because it's the first time that I made a music video, and I spoke to Kevin Hart on the phone during that trip, and he kind of, I always gonna say yes to making the music video, but he spoke to me in his Kevin Hart, ways, and he got me to the point where I was like, okay, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And then that started my, trajectory on like directing and producing stuff.
Hell yeah. I wrote down looks like Kevin Hart took way too many shrooms and thinks he's hanging on to the side of the Titanic.
Yeah, that guy behind him. Do you know who that is?
I do not.
That's Kevin Lyles. And
Oh,
yeah,
the
turn around
Atlantic.
again.
Is it? He's the head of Atlantic Records.
Nah, he used to work for Def Jam. He used to work
Okay.
for a lot of people, and the woman next to him is Ro, who works or was working with Kevin. I'm not sure if they work together still or not, and she does a lot of management things. But he is a very prominent feature in the music business, and a role model to a lot of people. And him and Kevin Hart are big time friends.
Hell yeah. That is so I'm going to take a bathroom break.
Yes.
So you started documenting the George Floyd BLM protests
Mm-hmm.
the summer of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
How do you make the transition from going from a music nightlife photographer, which is pretty apolitical, I imagine for the most part, to essentially becoming a photojournalist in a political hotbed?
Mm-hmm.
How do you make that transition? Like,
Pretty easily, honestly. Wasn't that big of a stretch for me. Because I always knew that, you know, being a nightlife and music guy was only going to be one part of my career as a photographer. I always aspired to do more, with my work and with the abilities that I have, the blessings, so to speak, as being a photographer and an artist. So um, I always told myself, "Oh, one day I'm going to do this. One day I'm going to do that." And
And photojournalism was part of that.
yeah, yeah, like one day, one day, one day, instead of making that one day be the day, the start of your next part of your career. So when George Floyd was murdered and the protest started, I said I'm gonna make today my day one. And that was you know sadly and unfortunately the motivation that I needed to push myself forward. Um, you know, the inspiration, and sometimes inspiration comes in all forms.
Yeah.
It could be sad as well. And for a lot of people, I feel like his death was a spark plug in a lot of people, from activists, from lawmakers, you name it. The world needed a kick in the ass, and it was that situation that helped change a lot of situations, and are, I think, still changing. I think there was some change. A lot of people would debate about it, but for me personally, like, I went from yeah, being known as one of the top music and nightlife guys to transitioning to you know having my audience tripled, quadrupled, and becoming, one of the, I guess, well-known photojournalists as well. Um, so it was a lot of practice, beforehand, shooting streets, shooting this, and just
Yeah.
being able to capture the moment. So it wasn't that hard of a stretch for me to be able to do these things, but I had to teach myself again, because I'm self-taught in general. Every aspect of photography, being an artist and the business side and all that stuff, I've taught myself, with help from other people, but the core of it is me. But teaching myself on the fly and being observing others and observing people that I think that are photojournalists and that they look like they, you know, have been doing it a long time. I learned how to move and act and be like them, but also being myself, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. So like you're bringing your own perspective from the music, from the nightlife world, but
Absolutely.
then you're, yeah, like you mentioned before, with seeing the covers on Rolling Stone and going, oh, I can make something that's just as good as that or better.
Hmm.
You're seeing other photojournalists that are taking shots, that are posting things. And do you feel an extra element of danger? I mean, because concerts can be dangerous for sure.
Hmm.
Nightlife, music photography, taking photos on the streets, like there's definitely an unpredictable element to that. But because there was the people who were protesting, and then there were also people that were causing violence on both sides of the line, did you feel like an extra aspect of I need to watch myself even more now?
Oh, yeah. You always have to watch yourself. I like to use the phrase, you got to keep your head on a swivel. Um, there's all kind of elements, everything's happening around you. And I feel like my life and my lifestyle, um, that where I grew up and that I chose, prepared me for 2020, and prepared me for being out in the streets, using my street smarts, but also using the education that I gained from being a photographer as well, and just me being the type of person that I am. you know it prepared me for what was to come,
Yeah.
and also prepared me for some things that I didn't know, were going to happen, these unexpected, incidences, like being arrested and being punched in the face by, a white guy in Philadelphia.
Mm,
And, there was a lot of unexpected circumstances, but also, at the same time, I felt like I handled a lot of these situations professionally, and made sure that I came out and prevailed.
When you were punched, you were punched in the face in Philly during
Hmm.
a protest.
Yes.
Was it a sucker punch where you were taking a photo and some guy came in out of nowhere and just clocked you?
He
Was it like
didn't
a build up to it?
It
What
didn't
happened?
necessarily come out of nowhere. He was right in front of me. I had my camera in one hand and I had my phone in the other hand. And it was in South Philly at Marconi Plaza, and there was a statue of Christopher Columbus. And at that time, and still today, people are upset about certain statues, specifically Christopher
Yeah.
Columbus. You guys can Google why people are upset about it if you don't know, but um, there was a Black Lives Matter protest, and that it extended down to Marconi Plaza, and people were, I guess, vandalizing it and telling them we got to take it down, blah blah blah. So then a lot of people from the neighborhood. This is in South Philly, and South Philly is a predominantly Italian neighborhood,
Mm.
from my understanding. So these people were like, "You're not taking this down. You're not going to do anything to this statue. We're protecting this statue. This is our heritage. This is our culture." And so there was a line, cops one side, protesters on the other side, and I'm going back and forth, you know. And at this particular time, I'm on the other side, and protesters are here. Cops are in between me and the protesters, and the guys just yelling at me, go home, boy, go home, blah blah blah." And I have all this on camera,
Yeah.
and he just reaches over the back of the cop and sucker punched me in the face and jaw, and I was like, what? I was like, what the fuck? Damn. Okay.
Did the cop do anything?
Initially, no. But the guy tried to run and they grabbed the guy. And then I'm trying to talk to a police officer and explain to them what happened. And they're just kind of brushing me off. I had to find like three different police officers for one to get, from them to understand, like, hi, I'm
Yeah.
the guy that just got punched in the face and I would like to press charges.
Yeah.
And so went down to the police station, did all that stuff. And yeah, man. There's situations like that. Like I was arrested on the Brooklyn Bridge, and that was horrible, horrible experience. To be arrested for doing your job and not having a press pass, which is a crappy feeling.
Arrested for not having a press pass.
Basically, yeah. And then
Jeez.
having no charges filed, and I was in jail for like 7, 8 hours or something like that. But like I said, sometimes you have to go through things in
Mm.
order for things to change, right?
Yeah.
And that happened, unfortunately, but I became a part of a civil lawsuit that was aimed at making change and making
Mm.
change within the police, NYPD, and how they deal with protesting and how they deal not with just protesters, but also journalists and photojournalists. And, my lawyers and the civil lawsuit that I was included in, it did an amazing job of, working with the city and working with their lawyers and making change. And now, I was a part of, like, I think two, and then there was another lawsuit where it's a bigger one where now the
Yeah.
cops have to deal with protesters differently. So like I said, you go through a tragedy and hopefully you come out on the other side and there's some sort of justice that
Yeah.
prevails at the end of the day.
Yeah. I have to ask you because my perspective is I'm purely around this area, which is, you know, Brooklyn's Lower Manhattan. I'm going in to see. There are some protests when I'm going into Lower Manhattan, and I
Mm-hmm.
can see what's going on. Shit's boarded up, um, pretty intense. But you were going around to Richmond, D.C., New
Mm-hmm.
York, a ton of areas. You were filming uh, not only the BLM protests, but also the Trump rallies,
Right.
the counter protests
Mm-hmm.
to BLM, and then there's also the media aspect of it, which is depending on what channel you worship, you were either seeing that these protests, everyone's violent and there's no peaceful protesters. People are just trying to destroy, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a massacre out there. And then you turn on another channel and people say it's all peaceful. There's no violence going on. Like, ignore these stores on fire. Like, it is what it is. With your POV actually on the ground, what did you feel like you were seeing? Did you feel like it was an incredibly nuanced, just like kind of mishmash of
Mm.
protest versus violence? Were you feeling overwhelmed by more violence depending on which protests you were at? Like, how do you
Um,
kind of look back on that?
I look back on it and say, like, if anyone thought that all the protesting done, in 2021 and in 2020 from either side was 100% peaceful, I would say that you're a liar.
Yeah,
Um, there was violence from both sides at times. Were there peaceful protests? A lot of times, absolutely. And even from both sides, like were the peaceful, like there's going to be people that, like you said, they're going to think that, just because you're down with Donald Trump, that it's going to be violent.
yeah,
And there's going to be people that are going to say, oh, you know, you're black, you're violent. This is what you're about, which is absolutely not the truth. But from my perspective and from from what I saw, is that there were times where super peaceful stuff, super peaceful, but sometimes even with those super peaceful protests, and there's still an agitator in the bunch, and maybe one person got arrested. Or are we talking about is peaceful meaning that we're yelling and screaming, like there's all, or who
yeah,
are we yelling at? Yelling at the police officer, is that peaceful?
yeah,
That could be debatable, just because there's not punches thrown, thrown, and so on and so forth. So, and even on the other side, the Blue Lives Matter side, there's the same stuff. They yell at the cops as well, because of whatever reasons that they have. And then there's
yeah,
times where it just become, both groups get together, and there's just this this kind of peg of a huge
yeah,
explosion. And then you get the cover of my book, American Protest,
yeah.
where,
Which I'm actually staring at right now,
oh
actually.
yeah, where there was, both sides collided together, and you had Blue Lives Matter, you had Black Lives Matter, and boom, you had this craziness of crazies, and you have the both, on extreme ends of people who really just didn't give a fuck. They want to express their opinions, and there was no talking,
Yeah,
that could really be done. It was screaming and yelling, and it was more about, in my opinion, actions. Who was going to prevail first? Who was going to be the stronger of the two groups? And who had, the extra help on that day? Particularly, talking about the photo on the cover of my book. Um, the Blue Lives Matter people had basically the backing of the police that
mm,
day, because it was their rally that they were holding, and Black Lives Matter were the counter protesters
yeah,
that day. But yeah, it was a crazy, crazy experience that day. And looking back on a lot of that stuff, one of the hard things to decipher is that, not even hard thing to decipher, but it goes back to me learning how to become a photojournalist. Because the first day, it's like, I'm black, and this is about me. So not only am I going to go out and take photos, I'm going to show that, I'm not with this shit. I'm not down with y'all fucking killing George Floyd.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So I had Black Lives Matter shirt on, I believe, and I didn't really understand that this puts me into the activist photographer, world, where the
yeah,
cops are not gonna see me as a, photojournalist. They see me as, oh, you're down, so
yeah.
you're
They
gonna,
see you as a threat.
yes.
Yeah,
So I'm looking at other photographers as like, nah, they're not picking a side, and I had to not pick a side in order to be, successful at this job that I
yeah,
was about to, this journey that I was about to, partake on. So I left that stuff at home, and just said, okay, cool. This is what I'm gonna do.
yeah. I've heard you say in other interviews that my opinion is my photos, and that seems like a great way
Yeah.
to cut through the narrative bullshit that you see on, you know, however many sides or stories there are trying to be portrayed in the media is
Mm-hmm.
that when you go through, when I'm going through the protest photos, the rally photos, the counter protest photos on your website, and all that's going to be linked to the wherever you're listening to this or watching this, I encourage you to go through it. When I'm looking at that, I'm seeing everything. I'm seeing every range of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing some violence. I'm seeing complete euphoria. I'm seeing anger. I'm seeing a combination of it in photos, people feeling completely differently standing side by side. I'm seeing cops wrestling black people to the
Mm-hmm.
ground. I'm seeing black people slapping cops or people there,
Right.
coming at it from both angles. But you will never see a take on the news where it's like, yeah, it was actually an incredibly nuanced summer with
Yeah.
all different, like, it wasn't just this happened and this is
Right.
binary black and white, literally in this case, and this is the story that
Yeah.
portrayed.
They haven't. I guess not. I guess I know that. You know, it's hard for the media to be. You know, I guess imbalanced. I guess because they
It's
have
hard
a.
for them to be imbalanced, or it's hard for them to be balanced.
I think imbalanced because
Okay.
they have. I think they have to show a certain, they have to please their audience, they know their audience, whatever, so they're not going to show something that I guess messes with this slight imbalance that they portray. And the same thing with me, right? Like I'm the photographer, I'm the editor, I'm the producer, I'm all of these things, and I'm choosing to show you what I think is an impartial view of the
Mm,
situation. I'm choosing these things. Now, I could have given these photos to someone else, and they could have picked a whole different story. So, I used to say that uh, I was being impartial to the situation,
mm,
and over the last few months, I've changed my stance on it, saying that the opposite of it, because I'm in control of the whole situation, and people are trusting me to, not share my personal opinion on the situation, but I am sharing
yeah,
my personal opinion on it because I'm shooting, picking, and producing and publishing these set of images trying to show you this impartial take on
yeah,
situation. So it's like, for me, it's like, it's wishy washy, but when and people could pick it apart, and I've heard people tell me, "Oh, you're not impartial." At times, I was like, "I am," but they, in some instances, are right
yeah,
about it. But I tried. I guess the point of what I'm trying to say is, like, I tried my best to not, have a effed up view of what I'm seeing, and if something actually happened that I thought was important, I wasn't gonna, not publish it for the sake of trying to hide it. Like, I
yeah,
think a lot of, or ignore it.
yeah. I mean, it comes back to what we said at the beginning with yourself and with Andre 3000, which is that great art is willing to divide your audience. You're willing
Mm,
to piss people off to
hmm.
show something that you know is true to your creativity.
Right.
And the news just doesn't have that element. They're not willing to divide their own channel because that means they're losing profits and viewers will
Yeah,
go
it's a
to a
business. The
they'll go to
news is a
another channel that's going to give
meh,
them the shit
the
that they
news is a
want.
business.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But I feel like, again, going back to what I've said earlier, if you're only watching CNN, then I think you're doing yourself an injustice. Turn on Fox. There's
Yeah.
nothing, because they're going to show you, they're going to talk about the same stuff, but they're going to show you a different perspective.
Yeah.
So if you want to remain, ignorant and, you know, be in your box, oh, that's blissful, as they
Yeah.
say. Ignorance is bliss. But if you want to educate yourself on what your opponent, a lot of
Yeah.
people, thinks, you want to get smarter, then look elsewhere, look
Yeah.
outside your box, listen to that podcast that you're like, that's conservative, but you know what? Turn it on for a little bit.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Dude, I think that's the most fun thing is to be driving in the car, listening to a podcast that you don't agree with half of it. And in your head, you go, this is bullshit, but I have another hour to go. So I'm going to listen to the person's point. And then by the end of it, you're like, all right, I still think that some of it's bullshit.
Yeah.
But I'm also learning about like this other shit that I was not even thinking close to that realm.
Yeah.
And it feels more fun. It fills me with more energy. It feels like nothing. I don't think there could be anything more boring than listening or talking to someone where you agree with 100% of what they say, because then you're just like talking back and forth and saying like, yeah, and we should do this. And they're like, yeah, and we should do, and then there's no like, I feel like you need that tension, that competitiveness a little bit when you are, you know, when you want to have a reason to tune into something.
I feel, I get bored with, you know, the same old stuff. That's why it leads me, my curiosity leads me to, you know, wanting to see what the other side thinks, and wanting to not just look at, you know, Ethiopia in, you know, in the National Geographic, actually going there and, you know, making it a tangible experience for myself.
Yeah.
And I put that, and I use that mindset to all aspects of my work these days.
Yeah. So I wanted to end off with something that won't divide anyone at all, and that is the January 6th Capitol Riots. Definitely will not make people feel one way or the other. But you were there at the Capitol the day of January 6th. I heard you say that it was like watching a scene from Braveheart. And I mean, that just watching the footage from that day, and the similar images pop into my head where it's like Braveheart or World War Z with the zombies climbing up the wall, like people climbing up the Capitol.
Mega big budget action,
you
know, scenes where there's just a lot of people doing a lot of craziness, you know. That's what it felt like, you know, initially.
Could you be so kind as to walk me through that morning for you of January 6th, just to set the vibe?
Sure.
Because this isn't just like you're popping into a Trump rally out of nowhere. Like, you'd been documenting these for a good bit now.
Yeah, probably documented maybe 10, 11, I would say right to far right, you know, rallies or protests. So I thought about going to this one. The one on January 6th, because I miss Trump's two previous rallies in DC. But I thought this one, I was like, this is going to be one of his last hurrahs and big moments before he's, you know, out of office. So why not go? Why not try to get a press pass? So got approved, woke up, you know, drove down to DC, woke up at like 6 o'clock in the morning because we had to go get searched by the Secret Service. They check your bags. It was like, I felt like it took forever. It was early in the morning. It was very cold. And then you're in, you know, and I'm just like, wow, this is what it feels like, huh? Like, first time, you know, having a White House credential and all that stuff. Wow, this is pretty cool. Little old me, you know. And I'm looking at everyone else, and, you know, they work for CNN, Fox, all these news organizations, and here I am, just me, you know. So it was, you know, it felt like an honor, you know, to be in the presence of, you know, all of these different photographers that have worked their butts off to get to where they are today, and me taking a different route to get here as well, to the same situation. So, you know, shout out to all the photojournalists and journalists that, you know, took the traditional route to get to where they are. So, you know, that day started, it was fun. It was, you know, people talking, there's speeches, you know, there's all this, you know, regular stuff for, you know, a situation like that, or for any rally, or, you know, it was pretty normal.
Did you notice a difference in the level of security or personnel this Trump rally versus the other ones?
Same stuff. I mean, this one was actually harder to get into because I think because it was on in DC and on government property, I
Yeah.
guess. I've been to his re-election rallies. I went to one in Reading and somewhere else, I forget. But those I just walked in. You put your, they check your bag and you just walk in,
Yeah.
and you're in. You're taking photos, no problem. This one was like dogs coming to check you, and
Yeah.
they're looking through every bit of everything for you. I guess because it was in DC,
Yeah.
that was the only the difference. But I didn't think of it as like what's going on or this is weird. Um,
Yeah. I was
but
just
yeah, I didn't. There wasn't any extra security. What I noticed that there was like, where is everyone? As I started to walk towards the Capitol, but I was like, wait, there's no police here. This
like
is
Capitol Police. Like once you got
none.
past
I didn't
the
see any
barrier to get in, there was just
to get into
people
the
to
actual.
get into the actual. Like once you got through the dog sniffing and the metal
I
detector.
mean, yeah, I mean, there was some security, but you didn't see much. But I'm talking about when we left.
Mm,
Um, when people left I guess the speech when Donald Trump was done talking and everyone was headed towards the Capitol building, what I did notice is a lack of police officers, on the sidelines. There weren't
yeah.
many around for the amount of people that were there. We're talking thousands of people.
Yeah.
So in my brain, I'm just like, man, if this was all black people here, I feel like there would be tons of police officers
Yeah.
already ready to go, probably in riot gear already.
Yeah. And there
Yeah.
was just no one there.
Not really, not from what I saw. No.
Yeah. So you've also said that everyone wanted to talk that day on
Mm-hmm.
January 6th. Like people were very chatty.
Yes.
Do you have any conversations that stick out to you or interactions from people you spoke to that day?
Yeah. There's a black kid from down around that Princess George County, I believe it's called. And I saw him. He had on a MAGA hat and he had dreads and
The one, yeah, MAGA, like the dreads were very tall.
yeah.
Gotcha. He looks
He
way too chill to be at a MAGA rally.
I thought so. So I initially I took his photo and then I walked away because it's like so much going on, and maybe about like maybe 5 minutes because it's slow moving. There's so much. Like I'm just taking snaps, taking my time, documenting it all. I didn't really have a goal besides to get to where everyone was going, but I didn't think that people were, going to get in. So I turned around and I tried to find him, and in my brain, I'm like, I hope I find him. He's gonna stick out like a sore thumb. This black kid,
Yeah.
dreads, red hat. I'm gonna find him. So found him, and then I interviewed him as we were walking towards the Capitol building, and that was a moment that stuck out. Um, I guess that was maybe the first moment that stood out, and then the
Yeah.
rest of it is just pretty much all craziness
Yeah.
after that.
There's another photo I saw. Was it an Orthodox Jew with a Confederate flag shirt or something like that? I
Oh
forget what
yeah,
shirt he had on, and
that was at a rally.
that wasn't January 6th.
No, that
Okay,
wasn't January 6th. But yeah, I think he lived Brooklyn guy, I believe. Yeah, and he told me, yeah, I'm Orthodox Jew, and he had on the Confederate
I
flag
was like,
shirt.
does he know he's wearing the jersey of the other team? Like, what is what is
Yeah,
going on?
yeah,
Um,
yeah. He wasn't very talkative. He was fine with photos, but trying to talk to him,
yeah,
and he wasn't really, into
yeah.
into chit chat.
So there's one photo you have where people are scaling the Capitol wall,
Mm-hmm.
and they're on the top banister, it looks like, already, and then there's other people. It looks like there are ladders somehow that
Mm-hmm.
got in there. They're fucking like climbing up the side. Like, what is going through your mind at this point when you see people that are actually starting to rush the Capitol building?
That I'm going with them. I need to.
You got to saddle up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like
It's the
the
job.
thoughts are like, how do I get to where they're going? I need to I need to be exactly where they are. This is a moment, um, but I don't know how big of a moment this is. But if they're climbing up there, I'm gonna go with them, and that's exactly what I did.
Yeah. The the photo of the Capitol Police guy that's holding the American flag, I don't think I've ever seen a photo of someone's face that looks like more fear
Mm.
than that guy. Like it
Mm-hmm.
legitimately
It
looks
must
like I
be
think I'm gonna
you must be
die.
talking about
This
Officer
one, yeah.
Fanon. Oh yeah, he's not holding that flag. Someone else is holding that flag. Actually,
Ah, okay.
he wasn't holding anything
Yeah,
at that
he's just trying
time.
to get the hell out, I guess.
They dragged him down from where he was, where they were positioned in the, I guess, hallway, and they dragged him out, and they were telling, kill him with his own gun, and he's screaming, "I have a family, I have kids," and yeah, I've never seen a police officer, look more scared and vulnerable, I guess, than that day. That shot is, man, probably, I would say, out of all the shots from that day, that's one of the iconic shots of January 6th. There's a bunch
Yeah,
of them. There's quite a few iconic shots. It was hard not to get a bad shot that day as a photographer,
yeah,
but that particular shot is one of the ones that you know, one of those
yeah.
ones. Yeah.
Did the FBI or any organization ever reach out to you just because you had
Yes.
so many photos of people
Yes.
and they were
They
like,
did.
give us,
No,
hand it over, or
they can't do that.
they can't? Okay,
No.
that's good. That means we still live in
I
a
guess if they
democracy.
could, they could have, but they didn't. They asked me to testify, but they would have had to get special permission because I'm a journalist.
Hmm.
But I kindly said no because I didn't want, um, I necessarily didn't want to become involved on that level. Um, that's not what I signed up
Yeah,
for. I guess, and like I felt like they've seen the images. It's all there. Um, I've said the story a million times through interviews.
yeah,
The same story is consistent. So I'm like, I necessarily didn't want to be involved on that level. There's times that I do think about, like, man, should I have done it? But I guess ultimately, what I didn't want is the attention from uh at that time. I didn't want the attention from the MAGA folks. I just felt
yeah,
like, I didn't want to be vetted. I didn't want people trying to come find me because of my personal opinion on it, or me telling the truth from my perspective of what I saw
yeah,
that day. I felt like, the interviews that I did, the photos that I did, and if you go to where I published the photos, I wasn't talking shit about it. I've treated that situation the same as I treated any other protest or whatever publicly. But when I speak about it, yeah, it's a scary day. Yeah,
yeah,
it's pretty fucked up that,
yeah,
what happened. It's embarrassing, that
yeah.
what happened.
Is that the highest level of danger you've ever felt, where
Mm,
you were like like you're taking pictures of people who look like they think they are gonna die? Did you ever turn that back on yourself, or like, shit, what
yeah.
if people try to fucking do the same shit to me?
Oh, absolutely. Like, it was scary on that aspect of, I tell people this all the time when I speak about this. Like, do I think that everyone there was a racist and would harm me if given chance to, or would say something to me? No, I don't think that. I don't think everyone, but do I think that there's a lot of people there that, if they could do some harm to me and get away with it, particularly on that day, maybe,
Yeah,
chances are the answer is yes. Um, so I always, when I'm at those events in general, I have, that thought process in my head. You got to keep your head on a swivel. I understand that it's not always going to be safe for me in these environments, but part of that is what draws me to it, because I know that it can be dangerous.
yeah,
I know that, that I might strike gold and talk to someone that is absolutely like, no, I don't like black people, and
yeah.
but it's willing to converse with me.
Hmm.
And that to me is appealing, because I get to ask them, I don't what did I do to you? Like, why don't you like me? We don't even know each other.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we could have possibly a dialogue. I know this is going to, you know, me talking to this person isn't going to, you know, eradicate racism, you know, in this whatever 5-minute conversation that I'm going to have with this person. But at the same time, if I can, you know, talk to this person and also while documenting, I can create, you know, this amazing piece of content and create, you know, commentary that goes along with it, which, you know, a lot of times with my work that I publish, that's what happened. A lot of people, you know, use the opportunity to speak on the topics and try to decipher, you know, the photography and also sometimes the interviews of what people are thinking and what they're not thinking.
That's got to be a surreal experience for a racist who's used to just tweeting out racist things or talking amongst other people who are racist when he confronts someone who's in the group that he hates and they're just like, why do you hate me? Like,
yes.
And they have to sit in that moment and give an answer. Whatever their racist way of thinking is, they have to confront that.
It's tough because I've had a couple of those situations occur, and it's sometimes it's not even from white people. It's been an instance where it's, you know, a black man and it's on some self-hate type of shit where it's like, why do you hate me because I'm not like you? Just because I don't think like you, you know what I mean? So it's like, why? And we're having this discussion, and in this discussion, you know, and afterwards, the weeks after, you know, I took it as a, you know, a lesson plan, a journey of like, again, learning on the job of how to be a journalist and how to be a photojournalist. And I knew like, oh, I don't want to do this gotcha shit. You know, I just want to talk to people and I want to hear their opinions and I want to learn. And also I want to, hopefully they can take the opportunity. Maybe they don't talk to a lot of black people. Maybe they don't know a lot of black people in their life. They could take the opportunity to ask me a few questions too, if they choose to. But I'm mostly here to listen and learn from you, your experience, and also share this experience with my audience.
Yeah. Was there ever a point where you felt like you were starting to get pushed inside the Capitol, or once you got to the steps and saw people scaling it, you were like, fuck this, like, this is as far as I'm going?
No one, there wasn't any pushing from where I was. You know, I was maybe 10 feet away, something like that. There was one instance where I thought people were going through from my side. And I was prepared to go, and it's like, oh, they're not going in. You know, it just kind of stopped.
If they went, would you have followed them inside?
Absolutely. Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that people were already in. I didn't know that that woman got shot and killed. I didn't. There were rumors. You know, you don't believe everything. You hear someone said, "Oh, someone got shot. They killed her," and it's like, okay, like I can't look this up right now. So
at that time, you're not like scrolling your Twitter feed, being like, "Holy shit!" You're just seeing what you're seeing in front of you.
But I knew as a photographer, once I got to the top, you know, I knew that this moment was, the world was looking at this moment. This, you know, at that moment, you know, whatever time it was, I understood the gravity of the situation, that this is the most important thing happening in the world right now. The craziest thing, you know, one of the craziest things, you know, obviously people go through a lot of craziness in the world, but one of the craziest things in the world is happening right now. And I'm having, you know, I don't even know if pleasure or opportunity to document it, you know, from my perspective, being a black man in this super majority white situation of far right folks that think that they want to, you know, they're going to overtake the Capitol. And a lot of people did go in and, you know, do what they had to do. And here I am, you know, able to document this. Sometimes safe, sometimes I felt, you know, unsafe, but for the most part, you know, I was unbothered and I was able to go through it unscathed and document this amazing, you know, unfortunate moment in American and world history.
To end off, when you woke up on January 7th, what was going through your mind? What were you feeling on January 7th? So I feel like that's a very interesting place to look back
Didn't get a good night of sleep. I was in a hotel. I was just, adrenaline is going. I knew that I had a lot of work to edit. Um, and there was a lot of emails that I woke up to of people wanting to talk to me, interview me, that wanted to license photos. So the world and my world was moving very, very, very fast at
Mm.
this time. There was a lot of dream publications that, wanted to see my work, and, National Geographic, New York Times, and so on and so forth. So it became, where I had to, stop being a photographer to becoming, dealing with the business aspect of it, and, getting my, in front of the camera face going. And also, that um, that night, you know, I cried.
Yeah.
Woke up, I was depressed. It all came crashing down on me, and I had to get on, Instagram, and I was dancing and trying to express myself in a way that made me seem, you know, unreal at the time, because I was faking like I was okay, but I wasn't
Yeah.
okay. So I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get on Instagram." At first, I was like, "I'm gonna do just like a story of me dancing, like, oh, everything's great, guys."
Yeah, like a TikTok January 6th dance.
But what happened was, I was like, "Oh, this isn't right. Let me get on Instagram," and I started, and I played a song, I was dancing, and everyone just wanted to know what the hell, happened.
Yeah.
So that turned into me telling people what happened, and it turned into almost a therapy session. And, crying, at this time, and it was just letting it all out. And it wasn't necessarily just January 6th. It was like everything, from all the protesting, all the waves of emotion, all of the, you know, uh, stuff that I had to repress, that I saw and that I felt, and not, allowing myself to, chant, Black Lives Matter. It all came crashing down on me all at that moment where, I just got super emotional, and it felt good to just be free and vulnerable in this situation, in this moment. So yeah, that was, you know, I guess that 24-hour circle of after, when I got back from the Capitol building. And also on the way from the Capitol building, uh, I luckily, cross fingers, I got a black Uber driver on my
Mm.
way, and, talking with him and telling him, what was happening was so therapeutic at that time, because I needed someone to talk to that I felt at the time would be able to relate to me, being a black man
Yeah.
in this situation. And I wanted to let him know at the time that, yo, I'm not one of these people. like,
Yeah.
I don't agree with this, but,
That's
it,
that.
it, it felt like, just your classic taxi cab moment where, the cabbie's listening, and he's like, oh yeah, but this is my brother at the time, and he pulled over and is gonna let me out. We're at the hotel, and we stayed and chatted for like 5-10 minutes. I'm just telling him, like, rehashing this crazy day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only time you should be allowed to request the race of your Uber drivers in the aftermath of a riot.
I
You're like,
wish, yeah.
I need to see someone right now
Yeah, it's
that
like,
looks like
but
me.
luckily, it
Yeah.
was a brother, and I want to find him. I'm pretty sure I could, find out exactly who he is. I'm pretty sure he remembers the situation. I believe we might have exchanged Instagrams. I don't remember. It's part of that day is just such a blur.
I mean, he has to remember you picking up a black guy from the January 6th
Yeah,
rally.
he
He's
was
like,
picking
oh,
up a
I wasn't
lot of
expecting this
yeah,
guy.
he's picking up a lot of people, and he's like, man, I remember telling you, he's like, I I want to go home, and I'm tired of dealing with this certain aspect of people, white people right now.
Yeah.
Um, but I want to. It's good money because everyone needed to go somewhere, and
Yeah.
it's thousands of people. So it was like he was caught in between. It's like, you're doing that job, you're doing it for a reason, to make money. So
Yeah.
go make that money.
Yeah. I mean, if you take out the photojournalism aspect and you take away the camera from that day and you say, I'm just going to place you in the middle of this insurrection where people are literally climbing up the Capitol
Mhm.
walls. There's violence. People think they're going to die. There's blood. There's fucking screaming, crying. that is a super traumatic experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not surprised the reaction that you had the next day, because it's
Yeah.
like the photojournalism aspect can kind of mask the trauma a little bit, I imagine,
Mm-hmm.
because you're there for a job, and you don't realize, you might have just experienced one of the most traumatic things
Yeah.
of your
Yeah. Yeah.
life. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
You don't realize sometimes you have to let go and let your, be self-aware, which I love I probably said it like 5 or 6 times throughout this interview. I love that I have that ability to just let go and to just look inward and express it, outwardly, you know,
Yeah.
because it's needed. I can't imagine if I didn't let go, within those 24 hours of, that event. Because letting go and just feeling free and being vulnerable and emotional and crying allowed me to continue on to do the job the next day,
Yeah.
because I went out later that day and still continued to shoot. There were rumors of people gonna be at the Lincoln Memorial, and then that led to whatever else I shot the rest of January and February, until
Yeah.
the end of it, and it's still not the end. And then that led me to becoming even more curious of, what else is there out in the world to
Yeah.
document that means something to me.
Yeah.
What other things, going down to the Texas border, and documenting, migrants coming over, and I've been down there a couple of times, and you know uh, going back, talking to QAnon people, whatever it is, that I find fascinating, or I feel that, you know that I want to see with my own eyes, or that I think that, I can, help uplift, or amplify a situation that I care about, or maybe that I necessarily don't care about personally, but I find super interesting. I'm gonna go do it.
Yeah. Well, I feel super inspired by your drive to follow your curiosity,
Yes, there you go.
and I will try to steal some of that for myself. Hopefully not in a jealous way, but in an inspirational
don't
way.
don't try, do it.
Um,
Capture it,
where
use it.
where's the best place for people to follow you, follow your work,
Hmm.
purchase your work? Where can they check that out?
You can follow me on social media, every social media I guess available that I'm on, at Mel D Cole. My website is meldcole.com. You can find my books, if you can find them. Amazon. The one book, my hip hop book called Great, is sold out, so you can't find that anywhere unless
I
you
saw.
buy it from a third party seller somewhere. But Amazon might still have copies from third party sellers, but technically that book is sold out as well. And yeah, that's how you can find me.
Mel, thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
This was great.